Welcome to Business of Design, you fabulous interior designer. I'm so glad you're here. This is episode number, what is it? 437. That means I've recorded 436 previous episodes. Honestly, that sort of blows my mind. I am truly constantly amazed at everything I learned through these conversations. And when I look back, I can really see how far I've come. If you want to measure your success, they always say, don't look ahead where someone else is, because comparison is the thief of joy. But look back at where you started and compare that to where you are now. And that's how progress is measured. And I can see that I have made real progress in some big areas, including the one we're going to talk about today, which is finances. If you know anything about my journey, you know that I used to feel completely out of touch with the numbers in my business, afraid to talk about money to clients. Finances, anything to do with finances actually made me feel really uncomfortable. And that was then. It's definitely not how I feel now. I figured out that, and by the way, it wasn't overnight for me, but it can be for you. Trust me. It took time and it took effort and it took a real commitment to stop avoiding talking about money with clients. And today I feel very comfortable doing it. So I feel really good about the progress I've made. The guest that we have on the show today is a wonderful guy named Will Leonard. And he shares a similar mindset with me that managing your money does not have to be overwhelming. In fact, today, what's cool is today there are tools that will support systems that allow you to manage your finances easier than ever before. And you do not need a degree in accounting rather, to make these big changes. You just need the right approach and a willingness to shift your mindset. Will is going to bring us a unique perspective. He's trained in finance, but this is really cool. He was raised by an interior designer and then he married one. Are you kidding me? So he really gets us. His superpower, he says, is helping designers feel empowered when it comes to managing business expenses and helping them to make things simple and streamlined and stress-free. So we're going to talk about what the impact of your expenses being completely visible to you, and how when they are categorized in real time and you no longer have that chaos around money and paperwork and all that kind of stuff, how much better life can be. We're also going to talk about the stories we tell ourselves. And here's one that I hope you're not telling yourself. I'm not good with money. I used to say that all the time. I'm not good with money. I don't care about money. Money's not important to me. What craziness. It should be important to you. That's why we do this work. You can love it and still get paid, and you can love it even more then. So the stories we tell ourselves will shape the results that we see. The conversation we're going to have today is all about simplifying your financial systems, which will give you greater confidence and then feeling in control of your business. And Will is going to share some strategies that save time, save money, and reduce stress, something we can all get behind, I bet, right? He's also going to introduce a new tool, which is Zena. This is a pre-funded spending card for designers. And it works really well for those of you who are interested in the profit first method. This is just another tool that can help support that kind of thinking. He's going to tell us about it. A few quick announcements from you know who, Miss Cheryl Horn, and then we're going to jump into a great episode with Will Leonard. I'm so glad you're here, and I hope your business is on fire these days in a good way, not a bad way, in a really good way. I hope you're killing it. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Kimberly. Well, this actually seems like the perfect episode to start talking about our 6-week financial intensive. For those interested, it is going to kick off on October 16th for 6 consecutive Thursdays. These are going to be 2-hour virtual sessions where we are going to deep dive into your finances. We're going to kick things off by asking you to submit your profit and loss statements, which will be reviewed by Business of Design's CFO. And we are going to start with that first session to look at what you guys are currently doing and make suggestions for how to reorganize your actual profit and loss statement so that you are looking at key metrics so that you understand not just your overall profitability for your business, but each individual project. We're going to break down revenue streams by category so that you know your profit margins for different areas. Within membership, we talk about 3 key revenue streams: your design fees, procurement, and project management. And each of those can be broken down even further so that you can maximize your profitability on each and every project and understand what projects you want to take on. This is going to be an intense 6 weeks. You are going to walk away with homework every single week that you're going to need to implement before the following week. And we want to see big changes in your business over the course of those 6 weeks. And you are going to look ahead and set goals and action steps for the 3, 6, 9 months that follow. I am sort of jumping the gun announcing this. I'm hoping to get the full details on the site before this particular episode airs. But of course, you can reach out to me if you want to be the first to know when registration opens for this, because again, it will be starting in October, registering early because you're going to have a little bit of homework before it kickstarts. And we want to make sure that everyone gets, the deep dive and attention that their finances require. So we will keep the group small, but you know how to get in touch with me, Cheryl@businessofdesign.com. If you are interested, please reach out to me. We will open registration to those on the wait list first and give you first dibs to register before we put it out to everyone. So please, if you are interested in this 6-week financial intensive, again, starting October 16th and running for 6 consecutive Thursdays, reach out to me, Cheryl@businessofdesign.com. We would love for you to be part of this. Thanks so much.
Will, I have not seen you since the last time we were in High Point together. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you too.
It's really good to see you. And beautiful San Francisco and beautiful Los Angeles. We're very far apart, even though we're both in the state of California. It's a long, long
Well,
way.
yes. Are you, it's not really summer in San Francisco because it's always foggy and cold weather. So I imagine you're getting a little more real California summer right now than I am.
No, we get May gray and then June gloom. So we actually get a more beautiful summer in usually March and April and definitely September, October. It's kind of near the coast. That's, life near the coast. But oh, such hard problems. It's really good to see you. And I love this fun fact about Will. I'm going to get you to tell everybody who you are and what you do. But I happen to love the fact that your wife and your mom are interior designers.
This is true. I know. Who would have thought this is where I ended up?
Right? So, okay, so how does that work? Do they get along stylistically? Have you learned from both of them or one of them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Stylistically, I would say they definitely have different tastes. So that's interesting because they don't always agree on stuff. They're not working together by any means, but like
Yeah.
their view of what looks nice in a space is definitely different. I've helped my mom, like, between college summers, do bookkeeping stuff and invoicing. My wife doesn't really let me as close to the business as my mom did, so I don't know exactly what she's doing necessarily, but yeah, it's fun to watch them. Design is such an independent business, like how people, set up their business, run their business is very unique to them. And so even like from afar, it's just funny watching my wife, set up her books and how she runs it versus how my mom did, 15 years ago.
Well, it's so funny. That's a perfect segue into our conversation today because you actually found a calling that allows you to help interior designers get their finances in better shape. So let's back up before we tell everybody uh, what we're talking about and tell us about your background and then tell us how you came to work with Zena.
Yep. So my name is Will, as Kimberly said. I joined Zena about a year ago now, but prior to that, I had previously started my own footwear company. So I was an entrepreneur myself for a few years, and then I work now for about 7 years, yikes, in various technology sales roles. And so Zena came up as an opportunity just because an old, colleague of mine worked here and started the business, and I was obviously intrigued because we had a good experience working together. But then this idea of working for a company that provided services and value to interior designers was super compelling because of my background. And so I jumped really 2 feet in about a year ago now. And I now run the team, kind of go-to-market team here at Zena. So it's been really exciting ride so far.
And did the fact that your mom and your wife are both interior designers, that must have had some influence on the decision? Like you just got it.
Totally. Well, also, when I was kind of interviewing for the role, the question was like, why interior design? Like, what about this? I previously sold mostly to businesses, right? And so designers are a different category. And so it was like the big interview question was like, what excites you about this space? And it was like such an easy answer. And so yeah, it was a huge plus to be like, oh my God, I know designers, I understand kind of how they run their businesses, and I've had like a passenger seat ride to multiple people doing it now. So I was super excited about that. So it
And you
definitely influenced my join.
and you probably saw a little bit of the chaos. I don't want you to throw your mom or your wife under the bus, but occasionally there's madness that has to do with finances and profitability and staying organized and bookkeeping and all that stuff. And you probably saw a little bit of that up close.
Yes, very up
Yeah.
close. Total
Yeah.
madness. Like yeah, my mom is still, writing invoices in like Microsoft Word, which is not the way to do it, but that's what works for her. And so I was responsible to a certain degree, like trying to make those make sense. But yeah, I would say madness is the right description for the financial side of some of these businesses.
I certainly felt that way years ago, and I would have jumped on Xena, 25 years ago if it had been around, but it wasn't. So let's start by telling everybody what it is, and then we'll have a conversation about finances.
Great. Yeah. So Zena is a purchasing card that helps designers and other entrepreneurs organize their expenses in a way that makes sense for their business. So for designers, that's often by project, right? You're running a project for this townhouse and you're running another project for, a condo in XYZ city. You can now organize those expenses automatically. So instead of looking at a big credit card statement at the end of the month and saying, what did I purchase? Where did this go? You swipe with Zena and all that stuff is automatically categorized in the places you want it to be. And so the idea for us is helping designers save time, get more visibility, and ultimately be able to make more kind of better decisions for their business in a way because they're not kind of playing defense where they're finding out what they did 30 days after they did it. They'll be able to see it in real time, where their purchases have gone and where their spending is going and adjust accordingly.
What I love too about what you just said is as if you have one credit card. Like most of us have five and can be sort of undisciplined about which one we're going to use and for which client and then it gets even more slippery like, oh, I took a client for lunch. Like, oh shoot, I put it on my personal card. Like it gets to be
Totally.
insane, right? The amount of
Yeah.
and I had a designer friend who was audited and that turned out to be a really bad situation for her because everything that wasn't put on the proper credit card to begin with, when her case was a credit card, and this is not a credit card, so I want to clarify that, but everything was put on that credit card in the wrong place. She didn't get credit for it, and so ended up having to pay thousands of dollars in taxes. So it's not just, it's helpful for sure to have everything in one place, but it's also really smart.
Yep, exactly. And what you described is so common, especially, really at all phases of the designer journey. But like when you're starting out, how do you start out? You have your personal card, you're buying some stuff on your personal card. Maybe you get a, business bank account with a small credit limit on a business credit card, but everything is commingled. And so Zena makes it really easy from day one, no matter where you are, to say, I want to have a business card essentially that can make purchases and organize all that stuff and consolidate all my expenses in one place. And so there is a huge amount of money left on the table in terms of, deductible expenses, but also it just makes your day-to-day life so much easier not to have to worry of like, oh, what did I buy that designer lunch, that lunch 2 months ago was on this card. I got to go, send that to my bookkeeper now and get that roped into the business expenses. That's not a fun way to operate. And so Zena makes all that stuff easier.
I love the fact that I can now look project by project at spending. And sometimes it's just the simplest thing. I'll be like, why is that fee so high on this project and so low on that? What happened? What did I do wrong? And I'm able to kind of catch something that I made a mistake about. Maybe, you know what I mean? So I do like the fact that I can also, as I've gotten more mature in my business, I care more about project by project profitability. And this is a really helpful tool for that.
Totally. And all projects are different, right? You have different, they're different designs, different sort of house, different location, different budget, right? And so being able to understand for you what your most profitable projects are, what's a successful project for you, where your money's going on each project. And like you said, maybe there's certain fees or charges you're exposed to for one sort of client versus another. You want to be able to see all of that, and that's how you grow and scale your business in a way that makes sense for you, is getting visibility and all that stuff. And so I think what you described is a real common pain point of like, where's my money going? Why is this, not profitable here when I thought it would be? And we want to give
Mhm.
you visibility into all that.
And you mentioned also fees, and that's another issue, right? With credit cards, it's all too easy to kind of pay a minimum and think you're going to catch up next month. And before you know it, you're paying these exorbitant interest rates. So with a pre-funded spending card, there's no late fees, right? There's no interest fees. There's none of that.
Yeah, exactly. You're not exposed to any of that. Essentially, the way Zena works at a pre-funded spend card is you fund the card by connecting your bank account, likely where your client pays you, and that's your spending power on your card. And so there's no kind of, oh, I can spend up to 100K, but I only have 20K in the bank account right now, but I'll get that remaining 80K. It's you have 100K, you put on your Zena card, that's what you can spend. So you're not kind of ever at risk of going overboard or getting ahead of yourself, which is, really helpful no matter what size designer you are to have that kind of control built into your business, I think.
Well, it's to me, it's just another layer of discipline that helps me stay on track at all times. And if I suddenly need to make a purchase and the money's not there, I'm alerted to that fact immediately. Where before it could be 60 days and now I'm deep in a hole. I didn't even notice I hadn't collected invoices or whatever. So is that another factor that you're sort of getting more real time feedback?
Exactly, exactly. And especially, like if you're running one project at a time, yeah, you can probably stay on top of this stuff in a way where you know what's happening. But let's say you have 5 projects going. To your point, you're late invoicing one client, so the money's not in the account. So then, you need to know that that's happening so you can take action and get the money in your account so you can spend. And so Xena really has a lot of value, especially running multiple projects, because it now organizes all that. So you kind of have this like view of here's what's going on from a financial perspective with each project, as opposed to, I have a card so I can keep spending, even if I haven't invoiced or I haven't collected yet. You're kind of not going to be operating in the dark anymore with a tool like Xena.
Right. Or after the fact, trying to remember what was this tile for this project or that project? Like I love that just quickly being able to categorize them on the spot while I remember because it's amazing. Like 9 hours later, I don't have a clue who was I looking for why did I buy that fabric? Who did it go for? I don't remember. And I have gotten myself into so many jams
Yep.
by not immediately noting something like that. Like I always think I'm going to remember, but I don't.
Also, like, who wants to go sit at the computer after you've been like running around all day and buying stuff and talking to clients? So it's like being able to do this stuff from your phone. Like if you buy something using a card, you get a text to say, "Hey, should this go to this thing, or is this the right project?" So you can automatically sort it right there. You want to reduce the amount of like obligations you have to do at the end of the day to like keep your business on track. You want to make it seamless and automatic. And so really focusing on like how a designer operates in the world, which is not at a computer all day, it's out and about and making sure things are happening with your phone. So like that's sort of like that's a recent feature we released, but like that's the sort of thing that I think makes a big difference because now you're not forcing the designer, your point, okay, what did I buy? Here's my receipt. Okay, I got to go back and make sure I track this or else I'm totally going to forget it tomorrow. Now
Yeah.
it just happens, real time essentially.
I remember the early days of my business throwing a whole bunch of wadded up receipts at my husband. And at the end of the month, he was trying to help me. And I'm like, I don't know what it's for. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just put it in. He's like, put it in where? It was bad. It was really bad. This is a like really fast track way to being more disciplined about something that is just such a pleasure to do when you're not creating your own chaos, right?
Exactly. And like what you're describing is like there's a hamster wheel, right? Where you're super busy,
Mm.
things are going well, but like you're never getting out of this kind of cycle of like chasing your own tail to a certain degree of like, okay, I buy, I get paid, then I do, and so getting control over that stuff just gives you so much more power as an entrepreneur and designer. And so that's part of what, we want to do is allow designers to be creative and focus on what they want to do with their time, not what they have to do, because to your point, they got a box full of receipts and they have to file taxes, right? That's not what you signed up for, right?
Oh, taxes. Oh dear. A lot of the business of design community have really enjoyed Mike Michalowicz's Profit First. And for a lot of designers, that has helped them be a bit more disciplined about spending. And what I love is you can still do that. You can have separate bank accounts for money where here's the money, I'm going to put this money away for taxes. This is my salary. I'm not touching it. And then you can just have your Zena card attached to the one account that is
Yep.
only for purchasing on behalf of clients. That's all it does.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And that's what you described is what we actually often recommend designers do is, hey, when you get paid, don't just dump it all onto the Zena card because, that money is for you. That money's for, hold back for taxes, for covering shipping charges, et cetera. And so, yeah, you really want to think about how do you organize your cash flow in a way that makes sense for your business. And so, yeah, connect your client account where they pay you, put that on your purchasing card and, spend and everything will be organized for you, right? But that methodology, I think, is popular with our members as well, and something we recommend definitely.
It's interesting though, like my bookkeeper is super comfortable or I think she actually gets her job done more quickly because things are so organized. I'm not getting as many questions. It just feels a little bit more streamlined, I guess, even from somebody who's completely comfortable with finances and a professional. It just seems like, oh
Yep.
yeah, I like this.
Well, I think, bookkeepers and people that are experienced with like dealing with finances, it's still, they can be more strategic, they can be more helpful, thoughtful, give you more advice that's like about how to organize your business more broadly versus if all of their time every month is spent essentially like matching receipts to purchases, that's where their time's going to go. And so are they
Mhm.
capable of doing that? 100%. But like, if you're paying a bookkeeper, getting the most value out of that relationship is really important, I think. And so part of what something like Zena does or any kind of tools that's going to simplify the financial system is it unlocks that within your business and I think makes the bookkeeper role even more important and helpful for you as you scale.
Mhm. I also think that it allows you to feel a little bit more comfortable with the categories you have set out for yourself. And if you don't have the right categories, I think it's sort of you sort of get it in your face that you don't quite have the right categories, right? Once we
Yep.
start digging beyond just did I get myself a salary this year and was there any profit left over, you can start drilling down into which of my projects is most profitable and which
Yep.
of my projects is the least amount of work for the most amount of money, which is something I never in a million years thought I would think like that. But I do think like that now.
Yeah, totally. And that's again, that part of this is just giving designers the visibility and the tools so that they can unlock that sort of thinking, right? So getting off this, chasing yourself and doing everything the way you've been doing it and saying, okay, how do I understand my business if I take a step back? And, part of that isn't just like taking on some massive organizational spreadsheet project. It's about getting tools that you use every day that are going to make things more seamless and real time, automatically, essentially. So, um, like the framework change you're talking about, I think is really meaningful to see and really unlocks like a new level of growth for a lot of designers once they start using not just Xena, but any tool that's going to help them operate more efficiently and not have their day be bogged down by like admin and organizational tasks.
Well, you begin to feel empowered by the tool that you've chosen versus overwhelmed by the tool that you've chosen. Like, oh, I need to take a course. This is simple. There, you don't need a course. You know how to spend. All you have to do is say, yeah, it's for this category. It's for this client or that client. And
Exactly.
oops, no, that's my kid's, ballet class. That shouldn't be here. I need to move that immediately. It really does simplify things. So many designers, and I know you've seen this firsthand, I have so much fear around finances. And even just introducing this subject, it's like they have PTSD around it. It seems so scary, but it's a pretty simple process actually, and you can be in command of your universe in this regard with a couple of tools and just a little bit of dedicated time. What do you recommend to people in terms of paying attention to their finances, doing a little bit of a look at where you're at? How do you tell people to do that.
Well, so one thing you actually said this in October, like, there's this like fear, like, oh, don't worry about finances. You're a designer, you're creative, it's too scary. Like part of it is just saying, I can do this. I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur. I can understand a financial statement because,
Yeah.
I'm intelligent, smart, and all that stuff, right? So I think part of it is getting over that fear factor of like, oh my God, finances, I don't want to touch that. That's not how it should be, right? And so
Yeah.
that's one thing is, addressing that, confronting that, and running towards it a bit. And then in terms of like what was your other question? I got distracted because I was thinking about our October
I have
conversation.
no
What was
idea because I was thinking about my tennis lesson this weekend. I suck at tennis, and there I shouldn't say I suck at tennis. So this is exactly what happened. We were going to do serves, and I'm like, "Oh, I suck at serves." And he's like, "That is a terrible mantra. Why don't you say I haven't mastered the serve yet? I haven't mastered the serve yet." Like it's so much better than I suck at finances. I'll never be good at accounting. I'll never understand my profit and loss. So much better to say I haven't mastered this yet, and to set yourself up with some tools that actually make it easier for you to do it and
Yeah,
understand that you can do it.
yes, exactly. And I think, yeah, so perfect example. Yeah, I was going to say something else about tennis, but we can move on past that.
No, now see,
I
now
think
I want
one
to
big,
know. What do you have this? Do you have the key to playing tennis? My friends insisted I play. I don't know.
Well, no, so my college tennis coach actually, what he said to us all the time was this idea, run to the roar, right? So the idea is like what scares you is, the lions roar, but you have to actually run towards what scares you to get better at it. And so that's always like what I think about is like this idea, run to the roar. So like whether it's finances or serving or whatever, this idea of like, confront your fears and go towards them as opposed to run away from them.
It's so much
Moving.
faster, isn't it? To like you'll get to the other
Yeah.
side so quickly.
Yep, exactly. And then the other thing, like back to the kind of designer, technology and tools space of how to think about this is, things are changing so fast from a tech perspective. The old way is like very big systems. You have to take a course to get them onboarded, understand what they're doing, how they're working. Now it's like there's so many options and so many things that will make sense to a non-expert. So finding tools like, we like to think of Zena's way. It doesn't take a lot to get set up with Zena. It takes, 10 minutes or so to get your account started and get your card funded and start using it. And so finding tools like that work for you and where you're at as a business owner, I think is really important. I think a lot of times people jump into like, oh, I don't understand finances, so I have to take on this like big project and look at different tools and like revamp my entire system. It's like maybe one day, but like today, what can we do? Well, we can like start organizing our purchases more efficiently. We can start categorizing transactions, right? We can start using one card for X sort of, purchases. And so that's where I think like taking these baby steps towards running a business that's going to make sense for you is really important, as opposed to like, oh my God, huge project, I got to jump into this. Like that's not what needs to be done anymore. There's tools out there that are going to help you that you can
Mhm.
onboard right away and start using and really see results really quickly.
That's funny that you said that. It's true. And I actually would say we're probably in a place in 2025 where we can reject super complicated tools to help us with our business. It's not really necessary anymore. And overpaying for things is not necessary anymore either. Would you agree? Is that fair
Totally.
to say?
Percent. And like, you should be able to try stuff out before you purchase it, right? I mean, free trials, free, plans, like this idea that you have to sit down and talk to a salesperson, get a demo and like again get an onboard and like run through all these steps just to get something to see if it's valuable. Like that is to me, that's kind of the old way of how things work. I think the new way is, tools that are easy to get set up. You have, really top level support and you can get running up and running with them really quickly. And that's, there's only going to be more of that in the future. It's not going to go back to the old way, I would say. So like
I would
as a
say.
designer, having a point of view of like, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what, I want to be able to try this stuff out quickly and make a decision within 2 weeks. Like that should be doable at this point, right? There's no reason that these decisions have to drag on or you have to kind of like take a month off to reset your systems. Like, no, there's enough out there right now that you can do that really quickly and keep the wheels moving forward.
This is adjacent to the conversation we're having, but this weekend I heard, I haven't verified this. I don't know if it's true, but it sounds right that companies like Walmart and Costco and Amazon, big players, are looking at ways to eliminate Visa and credit card fees And I suspect you're sort of a pioneer in the landscape. Do you know what I mean? Like that there's no reason to be paying those. Well, it's so dangerous too to run up credit card fees. It's just so absolutely so
Yeah,
dangerous.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and design is particularly like I think exposed to this, right? Because you're making really big purchases essentially on behalf of on behalf of the client, but the client may or may not have paid you. And so, if things go sideways or there's delays, you can really get, basically over your skis in a lot of ways. And so, I think as a business owner, being disciplined is so important and being focused on, how am I running my business efficiently? How am I maximizing profits? How am I running the business, for my own, goals, et cetera. And so, credit card fees are a great way to undermine all of that effort, right? Because all of a sudden you have costs that are, no value to the business that can really creep up on you over time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it's part of the world that we live in, and people are always going to, be overextended at various times. But like, I think the more you can run a business that doesn't have that in place and has guardrails to protect you against that, the better.
Yeah, and the reality is that it can be a cost savings to clients as well, which isn't a bad thing as transportation costs have gone through the roof. It's nice to be able to pare back in other areas because most of us have some sort of line item for credit card fees, one way or the other, right?
Yep,
Um,
totally.
yeah. So tax prep gets easier. You save money on accounting or save money on bookkeeping because it's streamlined. And for me, the biggest thing is just that real-time reminder of where I'm at financially and knowing that I don't have to go back and look at a receipt and try to figure out who the heck I was shopping for. It's really easy to tell if this works for you. Just track the hours you're spending on doing those tasks, those mundane admin tasks, the number of times your bookkeeper asks you what this is for, or you find something in your QuickBooks in the wrong category. Track that time and watch that time come back to you to do something hopefully more enjoyable and focus on how to grow those profits.
Exactly. Well said. You said it perfectly.
So, Will, we like to end every episode with something we call design intervention. It's just a great piece of advice you want to leave everybody with.
Yeah, so mine would be visibility is a growth tool. And so what that means is if you can't see what's happening in your business, you can't grow your business. And so if right now you're operating in a way that every 30, 60 days you figure out what happened the previous 30, 60 days, you don't actually know what's going on in your business day to day. And so what I recommend designers do is, focus on getting visibility into their purchasing, into their income in real time so they can make decisions and be more in control of their business as opposed to being beholden to what they find out when their books close 30 days later. So visibility is a growth tool, and I think tools like Zena really can help unlock that for designers.
I never heard it put that way. That's a really good way to put it. And we didn't talk about this. The categorizing by customer is great. Categorizing by product is also really helpful. Like I found I was shocked at that when I started paying attention to that. In fact, there was a point around 2008 was a terrible, the housing crisis and a recession. It was just bad. It was just bad. We went from like 30 design build projects in like days to like three. Like
Yep.
it was a bloodbath. And I had extra time back then because I wasn't working with clients. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to do kitchens and baths because everybody needs one. Even in 2008, those were the only projects we had for a couple of years. Those are only projects I'm only going to do kitchens and baths. And then I had a really wise business coach who said we should look at your categories of purchasing and your versus your profit margin and, overall income in those areas. And I was stunned to see that I actually make a lot more money on a living room or a dining room or bedroom or outdoor landscaping than I do on a kitchen or a bath. And I was like, wow, I just about made a decision based on my, I don't know, gut or instinct that would have just been so harmful to my professional career, or at least to my profit, at least to my vacation budget. Right? It would have killed my
But you would have been busy, you
profitability.
would have lots of time.
What'd
Yeah,
you say?
exactly. The money would have been, I said you would have been busy, right? You would have had clients and jobs, but you would have had no money in your pocket at the end of the month, right? So I think, yeah, getting that visibility and understanding where your money is going and what is profitable for you and your business is so huge. And so, yeah, that's a great example.
It was really good to see you. Okay, hopefully it won't be till the next high point that we see you again. But
Yeah,
stay
me
well,
too.
and
Thanks so much.
all right, bye for
Talk
now.